Mr. Ng, Mrs. Chan, and fellow colleagues, welcome to the first Leadership Speaker Series for this year. Our speaker today is the leader of the Catholic Church in Singapore. Ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to welcome our guest speaker, Archbishop William Goh, here. But first, I'd like to invite our Executive Director, Mr. Augustine Tan, up here to say a few words. Mr. Tan, please.
Your Grace, Archbishop William Goh, distinguished guests, Mr. Philip Ng, colleagues, good afternoon. We are very honored to have today our first leadership speaker for the year, the titular Roman Catholic Archbishop of Singapore, the Most Reverend William Goh. His Grace wrote a very powerful vocation testimony, God Must Have Loved Me. In it, His Grace described how, as a young boy of 4, he started attending the Church of Our Lady of Lourdes with his mother, who was a devout and God-fearing woman. From primary 2 to JC2, His Grace would, without fail, spend an hour or more in prayers at a nearby church every day before going to school. If you're wondering what a young boy prayed for, it was the rosary. But by age 12, he was praying the scriptures every day. After he finished his A-levels and NS, he began a career at Barclays Bank, where he was assured by his boss that he had good prospects. But there was a voice in him that kept calling to him. And when he could no longer resist that voice, he joined the priesthood. You would think that all will be smooth going after you answered the persistent voice in you. But no, the Grace said his first few years learning to be a priest were difficult years. He was not confident he could cope with his studies. He was in a foreign environment with no friends, and he missed home, and friends were his emotional and spiritual support. However, His Grace and God's unfailing love for him and the gift of faith, the gift of love, have continued to sustain him. Through trials and tribulations, he grew in humility, patience, love, and developed a greater self-awareness. His Grace was ordained as a priest on 1st May 1985. In His Grace's career as a priest, he held many different positions. He was assistant parish priest at the Church of the Holy Cross, formator, lecturer, and rector at the St. Francis Xavier Major Seminary, and spiritual director for the Catholic Spirituality Center until he was appointed on 18th of May 2013 as Singapore's 4th Archbishop. His Grace's vision, or Vision 2023, is to build a more vibrant, missionary, and evangelistic church. Vibrant as a church that constantly grows in faith, conversions, and vocations. Missionary as a community called to be salt of the earth and light to the world. Evangelistic as a Catholic to help pave the way for others to encounter Christ. His Grace has made great progress in the last 4 years, having established the infrastructure needed to support the new evangelization. His Grace has set up processes and management systems within the church to bring together priests, religious, parishes, the laity, and archdiocesan organizations. I'm honored to be part of His Grace's team to realize his pastoral vision for the Archdiocese. I serve at the Archdiocesan Strategic Planning and Resource Committee, or ASPR, set up in 2014 to plan and manage resources to realize the pastoral vision. I also chaired the Archdiocesan Land and Property Singapore, ALPS, from 2009 to 2016 to assist His Grace to manage the properties of the church and develop a master plan in line with the Grace's vision to accommodate the growing needs of the church. I've indeed personally learned a lot, both on the spiritual front and on Christian leadership from His Grace. Having attended the CER, or Conversion Experience Retreat, number 52, last May, conducted by His Grace, my life has changed radically through deep personal encounter with God. If you're interested to attend a CR, His Grace conducts 4 such retreats of 5 full days each time, every year, despite his very busy schedule. It's just a commercial for His Grace. Through my involvement with ASPR and ALPS, I've come to know His Grace as a person better. It is indeed not an easy task to look after 373,000 Catholics in Singapore, 31 parishes, and 100 organizations within the Archdiocese. I've learned that His Grace possesses great virtues of dedication, tirelessness, focus, and most importantly, understanding of the human heart. His Grace accepts our human failing, but He focuses and harnesses our strengths and constantly galvanizes our spirit with patience. It is a privilege indeed to hear from His Grace today on his thoughts on Christian leadership. Please welcome Archbishop William Goh.
Good afternoon to all of you. Good afternoon to Philip, Augustine Tan. Thank you for having me here this afternoon. You might be wondering what am I doing here, religious in the corporate world, among corporate people. Yet the truth is that whether in the corporate world or in the religious world, we share the same mission. And I will explain why. We have the same mission to build society, to develop humanity. That is our common mission. At the same time, I'm among you all who are corporate leaders. You should be teaching me about management rather than I teaching you all. But I'm also a leader from a Christian perspective. So this afternoon, what I want to share with you is really how I look at leadership. What I'm sharing with you is how I lift up my leadership. So they are very practical details, very concrete. It's not theoretical. And to begin with this whole session, let me first begin with the scripture text. Just one text, which I'd like to read to you in order to situate us in the understanding of what leadership is all about. In Matthew 20:20, then the mother of the sons of Zebedee came to him with her sons, and kneeling before him, she asked a favor of him. And he said to her, "What do you want?" She said to him, "Declare that these 2 sons of mine will sit, one at your right hand and one at your left, in your kingdom." But Jesus answered, "You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I am about to drink?" They said to him, "We are able." He said to them, "You will indeed drink my cup, but to sit at my right hand and at my left, this is not mine to grant, but it is for those whom it has been prepared by my Father." When the 10 heard it, they were angry with the 2 brothers. But Jesus called them to him and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. It will not be so among you, but whoever wishes to be great among you must be your servant. And whoever wishes to be first among you must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." I have basically 4 points in this session. The first point that I wish to address in order for us to situate what leadership is all about is to understand what is the Christian meaning of work and business. What is the difference between a Christian understanding of work in human life and doing business from the secular world? In the secular world, the ultimate concern is the bottom line, profits. How much you make for the company. And very often, some of these businesses, they have no qualms about using unethical values or even to destroy lives of others in order to profit. But the Christian understanding of work and business is very different. Work is a beautiful gift that God has given to us. We are called to sanctify ourselves through the work we do, including entrepreneurship. And how do we do this? When we make our work and our business for the service of others, for the contribution of humanity. That is why, regardless of whether you are a Christian, a Muslim, or any religion or free thinker, like in our Catholic schools, we have many of these, but we share in the same vision. The same vision is simply to bring about integral development of every human being. Integral, therefore, would mean intellectual, emotional, spiritual, physical, affective. Every human person, to live fully, must have this integral development. That is why whenever I address schools, we cannot just be focusing on intellectual, academic performance. That is important, no doubt. But the person will not be integrated, will not be holistic in growth. Because at the end of the day, what are you looking for? Happiness. Who doesn't desire happiness? Even the bishop wants to be happy. If you don't want to be happy, you should not be here. You should be in IMH. Everybody wants to be happy. But to be happy means to say we have this integral development. And therefore, whether you are doing business or whether you're working for someone, it is always the goal for the betterment of society. And this is where I like to make a distinction. What's the difference between vocation and work? I hope that all of you, at the end of this talk, will give up your career. Philip, I'm sorry to say. You will give up your career in exchange for vocation. A career is an ambition. It's about me, about myself, about money, about glory, about status. That is a career. It's all about me. I don't like the word ambition. Vocation doesn't mean priestly religious vocation. Vocation means a calling. A calling to do something to make a difference in the lives of others. A vocation is a service. It is in service, in giving, that we realize ourselves. No, life is more than having things. Life has to do with meaning. Happiness at the end of the day is about meaning, not about things. That's why many of you, I'm sure, when you reach the top, when you have everything you want, let me ask you, are you happy? You can work very hard. Your career can be at the top. Your wife has left you. Your children have left you. We are all alone. What is the use of success? When your family has broken down, we have no friends. At the end of the day, as I've said, what is our goal? Happiness. Do you want happiness? Or do you just want success? That's the question you need to ask. So vocation brings happiness. Vocation, therefore, is to do what you enjoy doing, what you are passionate about. Vocation is seen in two signs. In enthusiasm. That's why when you have workers who have no enthusiasm, they remind me of those, you watch the TV series with the Ming Dynasty, the one with the hat. They like ghosts, and you push them, do some more. Okay. That's all. They won't go far. Because they will do the minimum. Because they have no passion. They are not convinced. When someone is convinced, they give their whole heart and soul. You don't have to tell someone to work when the person has passion. And that is why I always tell parents. Don't tell your children to study hard. No need to. Give your children a mission, a vision, something that can really enthuse them. After that, you'll be telling son, don't work too hard. You need to rest more. Passion, enthusiasm. Enthusiasm means to say this enthusiasm is placed by God in your heart. A bird likes to sing. A dog likes to bark. During these days, we talk about human rights. Now also Singapore very concerned about animal rights. So we should give all the dogs 30 days leave a year and tell them you must not bark for 30 days. The dog will die. In Chinese, if someone calls you cow, it means dumb dog. It's the worst insult. A dog must bark. If a dog don't bark, he's not a dog. A bird must sing. But does the bird sing because you are around? Even if you're not around, the bird will sing. Why does he sing? He enjoys it. So too, your vocation must be something you enjoy doing. And it becomes effective. That is why those who are passionate in their work, they will always be successful in life. Always. Those who are not successful, they are those without passion. They have no vocation. And vocation is not for yourself. That's why. If you live for yourself, you won't expand yourself. To live for yourself is a very narrow-minded way of living. So I got all I want. Now I got my car, I got my house, so no need already lah. Finish. You have reached the optimum. When you reach the optimum, what happened? Finish. After you graduate, what happened? Graduate, finish already. Once you wear that box on top of your head, finish already. What's next? Take another course, get another degree, until one day you got PhD, permanent head damage. Just go round and round, there is no end. You cannot. That is the reality. So you'll be striving for more. Whereas if you work for humanity, you can never be quenched. There is so much to do. Life is expensive. I want you to have a rich life. To have a rich life. Not just a life of riches. A rich life. Therefore, Christian leadership, at the end of the day, following from this, is basically service. It is service. Not only service, unassuming service. Do you know who is a really great man? As a bishop, I meet a lot of great people, like Philip. I notice that all truly great men are very modest, unassuming, very humble. Those who pretend to be great are arrogant, nasty, inconsiderate. Because if you are really great man, you are conscious, as Jesus says in the gospel, you are called to be a servant. That is what Jesus came. I came to serve, not to be served. But in serving, this is where you find life. In fact, you cannot live without service. That's why those of you, please wake up. Don't think of retirement. The only retirement is at deathbed. There are some people to know, they say, I work very hard now. I hate this job, but good money. And they work very hard and they retire at 50, 55. Say, now I start living my life. Too late, baby. It's too late. Why do you make your life miserable? You notice those of you who are retired, and please, so I tell you, please don't retire. If you can stay as long as you can. Because the moment you retire, you become a domestic helper, a nanny at home, looking after your grandchildren. And you will do something. If you don't do something, life becomes meaningless. That is why elderly people, they don't like you to help them. Even if they cannot walk, they don't like you to help. Because it means I'm helpless, useless. We all need to feel needed. That is life. That's the first point. The second point is the question of leadership. What is the foundation? The foundation of Christian leadership, let me tell you, is very clear. Love yourself. Love yourself. You must love yourself. That is very important in Christian leadership, or in all kinds of leadership. Have you ever come across leaders who are nasty, who are arrogant, who are competitive, very political? It is simply this. If you find difficult colleagues and bosses, if you look deeper into their life, what's the problem? They don't love themselves. Let me explain. In Mark chapter 12, a scribe asked Jesus, which commandment is the first of all? In verse 29. Jesus answered, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And the second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than this. Love yourself. Why do I say this? If you do not love yourself, how can you ever love others? There are some people who told me, oh, I love others, but I don't love myself. It's not possible. Some leaders, they often cause problems. Some people are very difficult to work with. Why? Because of low self-esteem. Whenever I work with people who are suffering from low self-esteem, inferiority complex, such collaborators, they are spiteful, vindictive, always putting others down, simply because they are afraid that they will not be accepted. When you love yourself, it means to say you recognize your uniqueness, you recognize your talents. If you do not love yourself, you'll be always looking for appreciation, for recognition, for rewards. I told you, vocation springs from passion. Rewards, glory, they are secondary. The focus is not on this. The focus is on the mission. Vocation is a mission. Just like any Christian organization, we are not just working, we are concerned with a mission to change lives. That is our mission. To make a difference in society, in the lives of others. We are not doing work. We are having a mission. When you have a mission, then of course, you first and foremost, you need to recognize yourself for who you are. Loving yourself. Why do I say this again? I give you an analogy. You know, if you are having a toothache now, what will you be thinking? If you're having a toothache, I say, can you please help me to park my car? To hell with you. I got this toothache. You think you can help others when you're having a toothache? You will be just concerned with yourself. So when a person suffers from low self-esteem, he is always thinking about himself. He is not concerned about how you are doing. He is concerned about how am I doing. You know, people ask me, what's the secret of being a speaker? I don't believe, in all these. It's good lah. Some people read, Del Carnegie, all those, how to be a speaker. I don't do all these things. I don't go for this kind of training. First, you need to have passion. But secondly, you must be concerned with your audience. When I come for this talk, I'm not concerned about myself. I'm concerned about you. I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to myself. My focus is on you. If you are focusing on yourself, am I a great speaker? Am I fantastic? Am I doing well? Then I cannot focus on you. It's as simple as that. That's why when the person suffers from low self-esteem, it's always about himself. Now, to love yourself is different from narcissism. Narcissism, actually, those who are selfish, they don't love themselves. Those who are selfish, they are suffering from absence of self-love. That's why they are selfish. The reason why they are selfish and self-centered is because they don't love themselves enough. That is why they are grabbing attention. If you read those who are Christian in Luke chapter 1, we are told that when Mary was called to be the mother of Jesus, immediately, what was the next thing that she did? We are told she went out to visit Elizabeth for 3 months, who was in her old age, and she was pregnant. The moment when you love yourself, there is a sense of gratitude, acknowledgement of God's gift, of mercy, and appreciation of what you have. It is not about you. Even, to tell you honestly, what you have today, please, don't think it is your hard work. It is the grace of God. Come on. Don't think, some people say, oh, Father, I will work so hard for it. Come on. If you can graduate today, who paid for your education? No money? You can go to university? If the country don't subsidize for you, can you go to the university? Even you can go to the university. Hey, gray matter is a given. Did you work up your gray matter every day? Gray matter, you either have or you don't. Did you pay for it? No, you can't pay for it. Even you have good health. Do you have good health? You can study hard. You have money. But no good health, can you study? Also, health is also a given. Even for you to be here today, honestly, if you are getting this job that you are doing, it means it's your hard work alone, no connection, no opportunity. Sometimes see some people go into the department, stay there for 30 years, you cannot get promoted because that fellow hasn't resigned yet. Sometimes you go into this department, within a year you're promoted because you're the next in line, because the fellow left suddenly. All these are opportunities, moments of grace. You can't plan. So that's why they say, it doesn't mean to say you have a high IQ, you'll be successful in life. Success is honestly the grace of God. Really the grace of God. So that's an important dimension. When we are talking about the question of what we call loving yourself. Now, how do you love yourself? 3 things I want to tell you. Remember just now I read, love God, neighbor, yourself. To love God, even though you're not a Christian, doesn't matter. For me to love God means that you must have time for prayer, for solitude. You cannot be a leader if you are simply every day working. You know, there was this man, he was sitting in the office, and he was the highest paid, it seems, in the company. Every day he will come in, and nothing on his table. That's the best part. He was go to his office, he put his legs, on the table, and he just would see. Then after the day, he gone back. And he was the highest paid. And the rest of the employers were jealous. Hey, how come you're paying him so much? We are the one working. But he is the one who is thinking. He's a strategist. He doesn't work, but he thinks. So it's not, as we say, it's not working hard, it's working smart. In fact, you work too hard means that you are not smart. Today it doesn't pay. I mean, you work overtime today, it doesn't pay. It means that perhaps you do not know how to, multitask or whatever it is. Every leader must have time to reflect because we are leaders. Every day as a bishop, I wake up at 4:30 a.m. And I pray, you can call it reflection, I pray from 4:30 to 6:30. Why? I need to get up above before the rest of you. I remember the President of Korea, the former President Roh, when he became president, he was going to the office at 7:30, 7 a.m. Until, his workers, get so nervous. How could the president come before the staff? And you know what he said? He says, we are public servants. Servants must wake up before the master, isn't it? I mean, does your domestic helper wake up after you? When you wake up, you prepare food for the domestic helper to eat for breakfast? Come on. She has to get up before you, get your breakfast ready. And we are public servants. We have to be up before the rest of the world. And I realized that all great leaders, when I start mixing around, they have the same attitude. I was reading about Obama. Obama, different from me, but he sleeps. After dinner with the family, from 10 o'clock, he works until 1, 2 a.m. Then he sleeps and wakes up at 9. But we need to have time for ourselves. That's why it's very important to withdraw, to recharge. There's a story, of this man. He was a lighthouse keeper. So, in those days, you need to have a lighthouse. And those were men. So he'll bring the oil to light the lamp so that the ship won't come to the shore. And so what happens? One day he brought some oil. And the man came to him and said, excuse me, I need some oil for my house tonight. Can you give? He was a good man. He said, come, I give you some oil. The next day, a lady came to him and said, our house is dark. I cannot cook the dinner from the family. Can you give me some oil? And he gave. Eventually, he gave all the oil away. But there was no more oil left. He couldn't light the lamp. And many sheep collided. So as a leader, get your priorities right. It's important to be generous, but not at the expense of your priority. That's why every leader, please, learn this. If you don't have a schedule, people will put in their schedule for you. If you don't have a timetable for yourself, people will plan the timetable for you. You want people to plan your life? or you plan your own life? And you need to have priorities. He gave away all the oil. He was a good man, but he forgot to take care of himself. Take care of yourself. That's why a lot of people, and that is true. My parishioners always tell me, Father, if you loved us, love yourself. So as a bishop, I take care of myself. Second point, physical health, very important. If you want to serve, you need to be healthy. And now medical, fee is very expensive. Don't spend all the time working and donate the money to SGH. Take care of your health. I'm a very busy man, like you all. I pray from 4:30 to 6:30. And I don't like sports. I'm not a sportsman at all. I don't watch sports, actually. But 6:30 to 7:30, 1 hour on the treadmill, on the bicycle, stretching. Why? Because if I loved you, I need to take care of my health. If you really love your wife, your children, take care of your health. If you had a stroke, they have to look after you. I don't want my people to look after me. I'm here to serve them, not for them to serve me. They serve me, yes. Together we serve God, we serve humanity, but not to serve me. So, you need to exercise. You need to eat properly. Eat healthily. Avoid addictions. If you are a leader, you got no self-discipline, how can you command others? How can you discipline others if you cannot discipline yourself? That's why many children don't respect their parents. You tell your children, don't fight, and you're fighting your spouse every day. Okay. You need to have a sense of integrity, discipline, food, recreation, relaxation, very important. Third, to love yourself also means that you must also have healthy relationships. Live a balanced life, God didn't create us in this world to suffer, to be miserable. We're here to live our life to the fullest. And part of this living requires meaningful relationships with family members, friends, colleagues, church members. If you have, go to whichever religion you come from. Healthy relationships helps you to find meaning, purpose in life. Because at the end of the day, honestly, what matters most is relationship. As a bishop, as a priest, 90% of all those people who come to see me for problems are all relationships. Office, family, interpersonal relationships. So you need to have healthy relationship. You cannot bury yourself in work day and night. You will not live life. So, point 2 finished. Love yourself. Point 3. To be a good leader, you need to be a visionary leader. Which means to say, you want to be a leader, you need to have a vision. You need to be clear of your vision. What is the task of a leader? A leader is to lead, not to be led. I remember what the late Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, we were at one meeting and Lee Hsien Loong was sharing with us about the question of leadership. He told the ministers, to be a leader is not a coordinator, It's not just to listen, okay, vote, okay, majority, we go. That is not leadership. Then you're being led by the people. Yes, of course, a leader must consult, must dialogue. At the end of the day, he will have a clear vision. After all the consultation, he will take the lead. And therefore, if you are a leader with no vision, do you have a dream, in other words? You need to have a dream. How do you dream for your company? How do you make this company grow? If you are complacent, if you are easygoing, you will go nowhere. And the vision needs to be articulated. You are the one who provide that vision for your staff. If the leader has no vision, no clarity of vision, you cannot lead. That is why the time in prayer is very important. Every time in the morning, at 2 hours plus 1 hour, actually 3 hours actually, I'm going through. At 3 hours in the morning, I spend 3 hours going through. Thinking through my life, what I'm doing, what I have done, what I could have done, what more should I do, how else can I do? That is what I do every morning for 3 hours. Then after that, I will start writing out. All my speeches, my messages are written by 10 o'clock. After 10, all meetings, interviews, audiences. I cannot think already that time. But my main gist, that's why when I work well, when there is silence, we can concentrate. No distraction. But I think that is important. And what kind of vision do you have? It's a Christian vision. What is the Christian vision? The Christian vision that Jesus offered us is the kingdom of God. But I must say first, the kingdom of God vision of Jesus is not, what do you call that, exclusive to Christian. It's inclusive of all. What is the kingdom of God? When Jesus wanted to build the kingdom of God, or you can call it the rule of God, it is to build a society that is based on justice, equality, compassion, love, forgiveness, and everything else. The gospel values are universal values. Whether you are Buddhist or Muslim, they are the same. So the gospel values are universal because they are the values that every person will agree. If you read the Singapore Pledge, those values in the Singapore Pledge, you can find in the gospel. Equality, justice, progress, peace, unity. These are gospel values. So, as I've said, what is our task? We want to build a beautiful humanity based on the kingdom values. All these are enshrined in the teachings of Jesus. Of course, in other religions, they will express it in their own ways. Secondly, these values that we are talking about, they have a certain dimension. Values that are inclusive, holistic. Which means to say, whatever we do must touch the lives of people. You know, the kingdom of God is not something after this life. Jesus never said, I come to give you life abundantly after you die. He said, I come to give you life abundantly here and now. John 10:10. And by the way, you know, as a bishop, we have a motto, you know. My motto is Ut Vivant. Ut Vivant means that they may live. That is my motto. That they may live. Of course, in order that they may live, I have to die. We die so that others can live. That they may live. And so, the vision that we have must be one that is inclusive of all. Everybody who is agreeable with those universal values, they can be part of this mission. That is the reason why in Singapore, interreligious harmony is possible. So long as the religious leaders are clear that we are building a society based on love, unity, trust, and all the other qualities. I have no problems with the other religions. I have no problems. In fact, we are good friends. Good to have them also, because any problems, I just call them. No need to write formal letter, we just give a call. And we're happy. And Singapore is a privileged place, honestly. You can never find this in other countries, where all the religions, the religious leaders, harmoniously supporting each other. Inclusive of all. not only inclusive, the gospel values, also concerned with those who are what we call weak, the elderly. Let me tell you, honestly, it's important that you pay attention to the weaker staff and those who are elderly. Because at the end of the day, the company can be successful if there is loyalty. If the staff feels insecure, the staff can never give himself totally loyalty. That's why even for me as a priest, as a bishop, I make sure I look after the weak. And that is the reason why in a corporation like that, it is very important to show to the world that you are contributing to society, that you are helping society. Because the money, the profits that you make must go back to society. Because who we are today, where we are today, is the result of all the many people before us and now as well, helping us. We need to give back. Then, if the corporation is seen as a society that is concerned with the underprivileged, the marginalized, then people will support. Because it's for a good cause. For a good cause. So, that is the vision. Secondly, the leader must be the keeper of the vision all the time. It is very important. You know, I remember the motto of St. Augustine. He says, in essentials, unity. In non-essentials, diversity. In all things, charity. We need to have a clear mission, vision. That's why when anybody who works with you, the first thing you need to do is to get them to understand the vision and the mission of the organization. If they don't buy in, they should not work for you. It's a waste of time. Because they are just lodgers. They're just working for a living, but they don't know how to live. Before I employ a person, I want to ask a person, are you convinced? Are you excited about our company's vision and mission? Our values that we uphold? If you are, join us. If you are not, even though you can be very talented, will be a failure because he will work for himself. He will not be working for the company. Because he is not concerned about the values. So that is why a leader must be the keeper of the vision. He must be the one who articulates it. He must be the one who gets everybody to have a buy-in. You'll be the salesman. So as a bishop, I keep talking about my vision and my mission. It takes some time to get people to understand it. But we have to keep on talking. A leader is also concerned with strategic directions as well. It is not just vision, but directions. It's very important that these strategic directions are to support the vision. So if you don't have strategic directions, then again, you cannot do your work well. You cannot focus. Then what happens is that very often, when a leader don't have strategic directions, they become so concerned with the details that they forgot the bigger picture. Or sometimes in times of problems, hostility, or opposition, they give up. They fail to see. If you keep the vision, the direction clear, then you know you can surmount all these things. I am always afraid of leaders who micromanaged. Leaders must macromanage, not micromanaged. Micromanage, you won't go far. Macromanage means to say we delegate, but we also have oversight, of course. Not just delegate. Some of you, that's the whole problem. Delegate, but no oversight. That is also bad. Delegate, yes, with oversight. So that is what I mean to be a visionary leader. Last point. And last point is empowering leadership. To be a leader, 4 virtues are necessary. Personal qualities first. 4 virtues. You need to have courage. Without courage, you cannot be a leader. Courage to act, even when it's difficult. Especially in times of economic crisis, sometimes retrenchment is what to do. It's very difficult. I say the last department I want to work in is HR. Because it will be so painful to act. The man comes and tell you, I'm already in my 60s, 50s, my children young, my wife is not working, my wife is sick. Can you retain me? It's a difficult choice. But as a leader, that's why I say it's very important. Courage means to say we take risk, calculated risk. A leader who cannot take calculated risk cannot be a leader. And he must act decisively for the greater good. Yes, sometimes some people have to be sacrificed. But what to do? You can't please everybody. That's why you need to have courage. A leader who lacks courage, again, cannot make decisions. The organization cannot move forward. Secondly, courage has to do with bravery. Secondly, he needs fortitude. Fortitude requires strength. Strength. Courage, fortitude means to say that we are ready. We are ready to act. And we are humble enough to consult. We are not afraid of dialogue. The opposite of fortitude is dictatorship. When you push, when you are heavy-handed, means to say you lack fortitude. If you express in this manner, that's why you become heavy-handed. A person who is strong is able to dialogue. He is not afraid that he has his own adequacies and let others fulfill, complete his inadequacies. Fortitude, perseverance, that's the third quality. Very important for leaders, perseverance. Perseverance, especially in difficult times, because you can't see the goal so quickly. The decisions you make is not going to be realized in 1-2 months. You need patience. And as a leader, halfway you give up. A rolling stone gathers no moss. And integrity. At the end of the day is how a leader walks the talk. They say put your money where your mouth is. At the end of the day, if you ask your staff to sacrifice, you must be the first to be sacrificed. You must be the first. I tell you a personal secret, I love to watch Korean movies. But I don't have time, we're so busy. But I watch now and then. In the last episode of the Korean movie, I don't know the title, okay, because I never follow. It's at 10 o'clock on, I think it's a weekend, I forgot. I think it's a weekend, yeah. So remember it was something about Korea, the president, they were trying to kill the president. Those of you watch. And at the end of the day, the whole story, long story. At the end of the day, the fella who wanted to kill the president and destroy the country, want to meet the president, if not, he will set up all the bombs and destroy the city. And he says, if the president don't turn up, he would release the bomb. And the president, and they all told, the security guard told the president, you must not go. We will go. And in the end, the president went himself. He says, I'm the president. You security agents protect me so that I can protect the people. Now that the people are in trouble, what's the use of you protecting me if I cannot protect the people? And he went. And the rest for you to watch. Anyway, the story ended. So the point I want to say, therefore, is this. It is very important that we walk the talk. So if you want your staff to sacrifice, you be the first to sacrifice. Jesus says, no greater thing can a man do than to lay down his life for his friends. Many of you lay down your friend's life for yourself. If you are a leader, you lay down your life for your sheep, not your sheep laying down their lives for you. But I can tell you this, if you lay down your life for your sheep will lay down their lives for you. That's why as a leader, we always put ourselves last. We are never first. If there is anything, the staff get it first. We are the last. If there is a big Christmas party now, a lot of presents, gifts are left over. What do? You don't go and grab the gift. You tell your staff, take whatever you want, And those ones you don't want, I take. You take all the lousy ones, let them take the good ones. That is leadership. And finally, empowering leadership. Empowering leadership. Not just your personal, but empowering leadership. Empowering leadership, therefore, would mean this. We are all disciples and leaders at the same time. Discipleship is a lifelong process. But leadership can be for a term. We don't hold on to our office forever. And therefore, those of us who are leaders, your greatest task is to form leaders after you, to mentor leaders. A great leader is one who works himself out into a time when he is no more needed. Then he just becomes a consultant. A good leader makes great leaders. Bad leaders only focus on themselves. And I think it's very important. Even while we are leading, we are forming leaders after us. Because at the end of the day, the kingdom of God cannot be built by you or me alone. It is ongoing. We are just only preparing the ground. Even for me as the Bishop of Singapore, to tell you honestly, I'm preparing the ground for the next bishop to take over. I always see my role as preparing the ground, warming the seats. More than warming the seats, but really, because I want the next bishop who comes into office, that everything will be ready for him to do more. Progress is cumulative. There is always the next level. Somebody else will have to fill in. We do all we can when we are in office. Empowering leadership. That is the reason why I always believe the best person must lead. And I always told my people, the day when I find that there is another person who can be a better bishop, I wish to resign. If the Holy Father agrees, I will resign. Because I feel that no one should be an obstacle to the growth of the organization. Graciously retire rather than be pushed out. Because again, as a leader, are you concerned for the organization or concerned for yourself? My concern is organization comes first. The good of the people comes before my own personal good. And to do this, you need, therefore, to build communities. That's why I ask you, leaders, make your office really a community, a home, a home. You spend half your life in the office, do you know that? In fact, when you go back home, you only see your loved ones for 3 hours, then after you sleep already. Next morning already, your office must be your home. And that is why in my office, there are 3 things I do, you know. They pray together, they play together, they work together. Work is always the fruit of love. You just imagine, many of you go to your office and you see your colleagues already angry, cannot work already, half the energy gone. How to work? I make sure that my staff, when they come to the office, they get excited to see each other, that they yearn to see each other, happy to see each other. Then that is your home. So you look forward actually to go to work. But if there is politics in the office, if it's not a family, you got no more energy left. Half your energy drained out because you are fighting politics. And I can tell you, please, who promotes politics in the office? Who? It's the leader. The staff cannot promote politics. It's the leader. Leader who discriminate, partiality, and you cause people to play politics. In my office, no politics. Because everyone is treated with respect. Even my domestic helper is given the same dignity, the same respect. As leaders, I prevent gossip. No gossiping. Any problems, we have a committee meeting. We will talk about it. We will solve it together. But it's only when you display favoritism, when you are suffering low self-esteem, I think this is where the problem comes. Build your community. So if they are playing together, that means recreating together, and if at times you can share faith together, that would be ideal. And most of all, then people can work together. Because we have the same mission again. My time is up. I have to stop. Thank you.
Question. There are two ways in which you can post your question. You can use the mic in the microphones placed in the center of the aisle. The other method is through the pigeonhole system that we use. I think within your card there is a little slip of paper that tells you how to get into pigeonhole, and the password is also written on it.
I think all of us will agree. Hello? Is this on? Yeah. All of us agree that it's such an inspirational talk by His Grace, and we are also elated that we are not only once watching Korean drama at night. I think this is open to the floor now, and you can start putting your questions to the pigeonhole. But we would encourage actually colleagues who will come up and ask questions, because that adds a personal touch. Yeah. So can we have the first question from anyone? Yeah, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Archbishop Goh. My name is Chia Hui from Hospitality. Thank you for sharing your insights today. It was very interesting for me to hear about them. I just wanted to hear candidly from you, I think from whatever you've shared, how has your leadership style evolved over the years? And also, if there's one major takeaway from all the lessons that you shared today, what would it be?
Well, leadership, I think, is a lifelong process in terms of growth. I've been many years in the priesthood already. This is my 32 years in the priesthood, and I spent 7-8 years in formation at seminary, so more than 40 over years. I always believe that experiences in life change us. So I was teaching in the seminary, which is an institute for the formation of priests for many years. It was very academic because it was really formation. Then, as what Augustine has said, I got involved in the Catholic Spiritual Center when I started conducting retreats, and that is where I met a lot of broken people, wounded people, of all kinds of problems. And that is how I learned to feel with people, to feel for people. So my leadership, you can say that has evolved in the sense that I begin to see my work clearly in terms of changing lives, in terms of healing lives. And so whatever I do is always, you can say, to make this world a better place for all. And if you ask me what is the most important thing you can take away from this talk, love yourself.
Anybody else? Shirley.
Good afternoon, Your Grace. I'm Shirley from Corporate Affairs. In Matthew 10:16, Jesus said to the apostles, "Look, I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore, be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves." So this notion of being a serpent as well as like a dove is rather paradoxical. So my question is, how does one behave as such, especially when you are working with somebody whose personal values may differ from your Christian values?
And by the way, dove stands for simplicity, for gentleness. Serpent is not bad, you know. Because serpent is a symbol of wisdom, actually. It's a symbol of wisdom. Now, going back to your question, people have different values. But I think at the end of the day, if we stress on universal values and to help people to understand that these values are helping them to live a more meaningful and richer life, then there will be a buy-in. I really don't think that we are very much different from each other. All of us are human beings. We have the same aspirations in life. We all need to love, to be loved, and so on. Security, all this are what we call our natural aspirations. So I think it's a question of finding common ground and a question of explaining how these values serve the interests of all. And actually, I do not worry too much about people who are against you. You know, Jesus in the gospel, we are told, he was betrayed by Judas. But he was not paranoid. The problem with some of you is this. You know, when someone betrays you, you become overly suspicious of everyone. Is he for me or is he against me? It's not so important whether someone is for you or not. The question you should be asking, are you for him? If you are for him, he will be for you. And you show that you are for him. That's why even for me as a boss, what I do for my staff is, I let my staff know that I'm concerned about their growth, their welfare, their development, their potentials. My job as a boss is to make sure that they develop to the fullest. So I let my staff know, I am for you. We are not enemies. I am actually the one who will affirm you, who will help you to grow.
Thank you, Your Grace. Anybody else from this side? Please.
Good afternoon, Your Grace. My name is Shalene from the Hospitality Division. We spoke about servant leadership in Matthew chapter 20 earlier. And I want to know, what is the most important Catholic value that a servant leader must carry in a working organization?
Servant leadership simply means humility in service. Humility in service for me. So at the end of the day, you ask me what is the other takeaway for this talk. Actually, when Augustine invited me for this talk, I was hesitating whether to come or not to come. And do you know why I decided to come at the end? Because I said, I want to come here to help you to be life givers. Because all of you are in senior management, or at least in management level. I want you to find the fullness of life. I want you to do more than a work. I want you to be partners in giving lives to others, changing lives, changing humanity. And that's the reason why I'm here. Because I can guarantee you, if you give your life in service to others, and you think of serving society, you will leave this world without any regret. And you'll find that life is so rich and so meaningful. And that's the reason why I decided to come.
Anybody else? Would like to come to the mic? Okay, if not, there are some questions in the pigeonhole. I thought one is particularly interesting. Your Grace, this question is 4 votes. You lead the Conversion Experience Retreat. Do you think it's possible to hear God's voice when we do our work? How do we assess the help of the Holy Spirit in our daily work?
We are talking about discernment. So that's the reason why I've said, a leader, first and foremost, we need time to pray. You need solitude, in other words. Whether you are a believer or you're non-believer, you need solitude. And solitude is very important to listen to the voice of God. For those of you who are Christian or believers, you have your sacred text. For us Christian particularly, it is helpful. Of course, we always pray with the Bible. When you spend quiet time reading the Bible, the Lord will speak to you. But that is first part. That is only the first part of discernment. After that, we need to bring to the community, to the group, to the team. It's a team ministry. And this is where we need to ask those who are expert in their own areas, the level of dialogue, level of consultation. And then what else? After that, you bring back to pray. Because you are a leader. You hear so many voices. In the team, they've got so many voices, and some voices are not genuine voices. They have their own interest. You listen to voices, you go back and you pray. All I can tell you is, if you do pray, you will come to a point when you are convicted, not intellectually, in your heart. And when you make the decision, you will have peace in your heart. You have joy. If there is no peace, no joy, means that the discernment process is still not properly done. You might have to go back to a second consultation and then you go back. That's what I do as a bishop. So I have something. I consult. I dialogue. Then I go back and pray about it. And if I'm still half-hearted, means I'm not ready. Then I need more consultation. So you can only know that it is God's will when you are certain, when you are really convicted in your heart, and the fruits will be peace and joy. And of course, you can see that ultimately God will work, will bring about the results. Yeah.
Thank you, Your Grace. Any question from the floor again?
Hello, I'm Ganjan from HR, the last department you want to work in, but I'll try to love myself more. I have a question, because you said that as a leader, you have to be a servant and you share your fruits with those around us. So I was thinking about the recent visit by Donald Trump to the Western Wall. What is the first sitting president to visit the Western Wall? Should that place be shared with others, Christian and non-Christian alike, so that they can benefit from the spiritual growth? Or should it belongs to somebody? That's my question.
Sorry, I'm not too clear.
All right. The president visited the Western Wall.
Yeah.
Now there's no representative either from Israel or Palestine to accompany him because it's a stateless country.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are still going through the peace process.
Correct. Yeah.
So my question is, should this place of worship be shared with Christian and non-Christian alike, so that they can benefit from the spiritual growth? Because it's saying that we should benefit, the core value of Christians actually applies to all.
Yeah. I think they are trying to do it to make it a common place for all, but I think life is very complex. Politics are involved, and I think whether you like it or not, I mean, that is the reality of life. The national interest comes first, in the decisions that are being made. And I think the situation in Palestine, in Israel, will remain fragile because of the inability to forgive, inability to trust, and also with the superpowers in place having their own interests, I think this is where the challenge is. But in terms of place of religious worship and so on, presently, at least I think, I don't know, for us Catholics and the Jews, we have certain, and some Christian, I suppose we have certain, what we call, agreement on using all those places those for worship, I think so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. But Ganjan, actually the real reason why President Trump was putting the message in there is to find out who's the contractor for the wall. Yeah, so that he can do the same, in US. Yeah. Okay. Your Grace, there's a question yelling for an answer. 13 votes. What is your advice for leaders that have flaws themselves and are struggling to change it? For example, I'm a leader and I have very little patience when it comes to managing my team.
All leaders have flaws. I think that is important. That is the reason why it's very important to recognize our strength and our weaknesses. And this is where we make use of each other's strength and we try to cover up each other's weakness. Like for me as a bishop, I also have difficult people to deal with. Now, as a leader, by the way, the question about patience, I want to say something. Please, as a leader, you cannot afford to lose your cool. You make yourself look so stupid. You just imagine if I were the bishop, I'm shouting and screaming, and somebody video it and it goes viral. I tell you, and whatever it is, you cannot lose your cool. Because if a leader loses his cool, he can't lead anymore. That means you have lost self-control. And so what do? That's why for me as a leader, I know when to meet people, when not to meet people. I know my strength, I know my limitations. So as a leader, you should know your inadequacies. There are some things that could be delegated. If you find it so difficult to talk to this person, you get someone else. This person, whenever I see her, my BP will rise, So I think you try to talk to her. I think there are certain things, again, we can delegate. So, but leaders, please, do you know your strength first? And do you know your weaknesses? The problem is you can't accept your weaknesses. If you cannot accept your weaknesses, then you start denying them. When you deny them, you are not alert. And that doesn't help. But if you know your strength and you build on your strength, I can tell you, eventually, you will overcome your weaknesses. Hey, hello, what I am today is not something that was made overnight within 2-3 years. When I was young, like some of you, I was very insecure. Do you know that? Very insecure person as well. As a young priest, I was very insecure. And I grew older and I learned. I made mistakes. In those days when I was a young priest, I was like LKY, perfectionist. I remember I was the dean of studies. Just one mistake on the notes, I will throw them all away and reprint everything. I cannot see even a single mistake. Very meticulous, perfectionist. But I realized later on, it is a sign of insecurity. I was afraid what people might think of me, rather than the question of doing your work perfectly. So I think it's a question of time when you gain confidence, and that is the reason why also I must say, if you want people to grow, what do? Affirmation is very important. Take the trouble to affirm your staff. If you want your staff to work with you, you must always affirm them genuinely. That's what I do. I will SMS them, I will send them email. If I see something good has been done, I will tell the staff, that was a great job this morning. And when you affirm someone, the person will learn to, will learn to love himself. And when the person appreciates and loves himself, the person will become less insecure. Coming back to the Korean movies again. I tell you this story. This is a very important story. Because there are some stuff that you cannot work with. True. Everywhere got problems. Difficult stuff. I tell you a trick. This is what I do for my office, what I do when I was a seminary. This Korean movie, again, I don't know what movie was that. So the mother-in-law, cannot stand the daughter-in-law as usual. So they were always fighting. They were always quarreling. And so one day the daughter-in-law said to the mother-in-law, this is what we do. Every day, you must say one good thing about me. And I will say one good thing about you. So that was a contract. So every morning they have to wake up. What shall I say to my daughter-in-law? Say something good, positive. By the end of the year, they became the best of friends. If you start pointing out the good, positive things about a person, the person will start loving himself and he will start being positive to you. And then when a person recognizes his strength, eventually the weaknesses will also be overcome. And so this is my, really, if you really have difficult staff in office because they lack appreciation, lack self-esteem, when you start bringing the best out of them, I can tell you they perform much better. Instead of looking at their mistakes all the time, unless they have major mistakes, look at their strength. And when you draw the strength out, they perform much better. And that is how I deal with my staff, with those people working with me.
Thank you, Your Grace. The guy seems to be paying a great attention when you talk about mothers-in-law. I think they probably know what to say. Tell the wife tonight. There's a question here on office politics. I thought it's interesting. Office politics is something that has adverse effects at the workplace. What is your advice to staff who are worn down and disillusioned and have lost their passion to do their best?
As I've said just now, office politics has to do with the leader. The leader is the one who will stop or encourage office politics. If a leader is sincerely affirming his staff, looking after his staff welfare, then politics will not happen. For me as a leader, some of my very key principles, I'm totally impartial. I get the person to do a job. I don't care whether he's Chinese, Indian, whatever it is. I don't care. If the one who can do the job well will get the job. For me, it's a question of competency. So I think if you are fair, you treat your staff fairly, and you show concern for all your staff, I don't think there should be office politics. And if there are unhappiness, this is what I do. Again, there is a proper channel. First, we must have regular meetings to talk about their work, to share. What are your problems? My principle is clear. I told those people concerned working with me, if you don't complain or don't say anything within this meeting, outside the meeting, you cannot talk. I don't want to hear gossips. Either you say it or don't gossip. The other thing is, there is a proper channel. You go to the one above you. If the one above you cannot deal with it, go to the higher one. So if there's a proper channel for people to articulate or to voice their grievances, actually what people need is they need to be heard. They need empathy. And then we try to find a best solution. I think at the end of the day, we try to find a win-win situation. I think it's a question of dialogue, a question of helping a person to come to terms and finding the best position for the staff. For at the end of the day, we have different gifts. So if that staff doesn't have the talent for this kind of work, he has to change to another place. There is no point forcing a staff to do something he can't do. You cannot get water out from rocks, unless you're Moses.
Any questions from the floor? If not, maybe Your Grace asks you a fairly relevant question to us. We are a Christian enterprise, as you know. Our values are anchored on the foundation, the firm foundation of the Word of God and the values of Christ. However, we are still grappling, at least some of us, with what that means to us as leaders, colleagues, subordinates, and staff members of the company. So, can we have your views on, one, how and when do you give grace? And two, how do you balance secular goals, like working within a budget and adhering strictly to values?
How and when do you give grace? What does it mean? Give thanks? Is that what you mean? Give grace means give thanks? Or be compassionate?
Yeah, I think more compassionate.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you balance secular goals, like working within a budget? Okay. It's not just in the corporate organization, even in the church as well. Now, as a Christian organization, as I've said, our values are not much different from, so to speak, people from other religions as well, or those who are serious about giving themselves, their lives to society. So I believe a Christian organization, your vision and mission at the end of the day is to serve humanity and to serve God, of course. That is clear. That is a question of giving grace, compassion. There are many ways, as I've said, that we can deal with such situations. Like, for example, in our Catholic Church, when we need to put off a worker, we try to find another job for the person. That is what the HR does. Try to see that we are trying to help. So the compassion is not weakness. When there is a staff who is having problems, we call the staff, we need to dialogue. We explain to the staff. There is a certain time, we tell the staff, look, after a certain time, you seem not be able to get it right. You will have to go. But it is not just a sudden. I mean, we are helping a person to grow. But as I've said, there are many ways. I mean, this your question is a bit difficult because different circumstances, different persons will need different solutions. So we don't have what we call a blueprint answer for all. It depends on the case. For me, the question at the end is, how can we best help this person to do well or to find, and I tell the person, honestly, if the person is working in this organization, but he just can't fit in. And I tell the person, if you stay here, you are not going to grow and the company is not going to grow. Then you better try to find another job that is more suitable for you. Because at the end of the day is, as I've said, are we for the workers? If I'm for the worker, for anyone, I want to make sure that he will find fulfillment in life. If he is not happy here, everybody is not happy, then why you stay here? So my job is to say, tell the person, even in the, I give you a very good example. I was in the seminary as a formator, as a rector. And then we have to discern who should be qualified to be ordained and not ordained. What do? I tell the person, look, at the way you're going, your charisms or your attitudes, you cannot be a priest. If you become a priest, you will not be happy. Not only not happy, you make everybody else suffer. I say, please don't do that. So when he comes to realize that, he will leave. So the question is, counseling is very important. I think it's a question of, if you are a good boss and you have always been taking care of your staff, looking after their interests, and they know that you are for them. I mean, if you are frank with them and honest with them, really so sorry, you just can't fit in. You need to look for a job somewhere else. I think the person can accept it. It's a question of how you do it and the motive behind it. Yeah, all these things involved. Ask the HR. And then the question of balancing secular goals, working within budget. I mean, that's the reality. Even the church have budgets. We have goals. Yeah. But as I've said, honestly, if you have workers who are passionate, all of you will succeed. Far East will be really Far East. If all the workers are passionate, they imbibe in your values, in your mission, everybody, we will succeed together. The reason why you are not succeeding is because half of them are not with you. That's why I say at the end of the day, remember this, there are no bad soldiers, only bad commanders. No bad soldiers. It's how we command our staff, it's how we lead them. So if you can instill passion in them, you will be successful. Budget-wise, of course, this is where, these are the practical terms that we have to, what we call, manage accordingly. This is not being unchristian, it's being realistic. Even Rome also got cut down with deficit, cut down this, and we cut the trim down there. That is a reality. We can only do so much, and we try to do it in a very compassionate way, as compassionate as possible. So even if I have to ask the staff to go, I will try to really do my best to help the staff to have an easy exit. Yeah.
Thank you, Your Grace. This is an easier question. Yeah. From many of our Catholic colleagues here, we read that you have met Pope Francis and that he has accepted an invitation from President Tony Tan to visit Singapore, though the date has not been set. Can we expect to see Pope Francis in Singapore this year?
Don't take this too seriously. Of course, when the President Tony Tan invited Pope Francis, he said yes. Yes could mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. When he is on the way. Actually, he almost came because Indonesia, they were having the Asian World Youth Day. This year is in Indonesia in August. But the political problems in Indonesia is not too good now. So instead he went to Bangladesh. He's going to Bangladesh instead. So, the timing depends on his journey, and he's old. He cannot be traveling up and down. And even he comes here, it's just only for a day or half a day, whatever it is. Yeah. So, but there's also depending on the political situation of certain countries, there are many factors. So, put this way, when he says he has accepted, means that he is open to the invitation. When will he come? Only God knows, I think. And whether he's still alive by then.
Your Grace, related to Pope Francis, some of us would like to know your views on what kind of a leader Pope Francis is. How has he inspired you? And perhaps let us know the 3 qualities that you most admire of Pope Francis.
There are, before Pope Francis, we have Pope Benedict. Now, these two, they are complementary. Pope Benedict, his whole life was in the academia. He was a professor, teaching theology in university. That's why Pope Benedict, his books, his thoughts, even today, at his age 90, very lucid, what we call writings. And his writings are full of, pregnant with meaning and really beautiful, very profound. If you were to read his works, very, very profound. He's a thinker. Germans are thinkers, So he's a real thinker. And he's very good from the side of knowledge. But he was not really a pastoral man because he spent his whole life in the university. Pope Francis was not in the university. His whole life was in the parish. He was a real pastor. That is why you notice the approach is very different. Pope Benedict gives us the right teaching. But Pope Francis is the one who is very social-minded. He must understand where his origin, again, his experiences. In Latin America, a lot of corruption, a lot of poverty, abusers. That was where he came from. And therefore, he has a heart for the poor. And so I think the great thing about Pope Francis is because it's just like me. I'm very grateful, because I spent almost 15 years in the seminary, like Pope Benedict. But then I came out of the seminary, I got involved in Catholic Spirit Center, where I got in touch with the people. So that's why you see my life is quite balanced. My head and my heart is quite synced together. If not, I will have so much knowledge in the head, but I don't have a heart experience. That is the reason why I have great compassion for people. So for Pope Francis, what he has taught me most, I really am inspired by him, is that he reached out to people. And that is the reason why he's trying to make the church laws less stringent, more compassionate. Not to say the truth cannot change, but the way we apply it can change. And I think the great thing about Pope Francis is because of his, you can say, of his human touch, very much in touch with humanity. He understands the problems, he understands the struggles of the men, the women in the street, and therefore he's always speaking about compassion, helping the poor, and so on. I think it's a great thing about Pope Francis, the social dimension of the church. Secondly, Pope Francis shows us the compassionate face of the church. Tolerance, acceptance, being patient with people who are different and who are not with us. Okay? And the third thing about Pope Francis, for me, is his, what we call, his devotion to Mary, the mother of Jesus. I think in her, he finds a lot of strength to really lead the church, imitating the virtues of humility, of obedience, of docility. So these are the three things that Pope Francis truly inspire me in terms of the ministry, in terms of spiritual life. And he himself, the same thing. He also wake up at 4:30, I discovered. Yeah.
Thank you, Your Grace. So we have hoped that there could be another Asian Pope.
Not likely, possible.
Thank you. We have time for the last question. Anybody from the floor?
One more question, is it?
Okay. If not, no, from the floor would be good. If anybody has any question, if not, I've lost the page. The question of the most votes, why do we need God, Jesus, if following universal principles is good enough and can lead me to more meaningful and richer life?
Okay, let me explain this text of the Bible in John chapter 14. Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. For us Christians, we believe that Jesus is the fullness of the revelation of God. Jesus, who is truly God and truly man. Only, as Jesus says, only he who comes from God can reveal to us who God is. So, in Jesus, that's why when Philip asked Jesus, show us the Father and we'll be satisfied. And Jesus said, to see me is to see the Father. So, for us Christian, we believe that in Jesus, he is the Word of God in person. He is the face of God. Because God has no face. He is pure spirit. He has no face. So, Jesus is the fullness of the expression. And Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. That is to say, if you want to live life fully, you need to know the truth. That is the reason why the search for truth is ultimate. You cannot live life fully without knowing the truth. Everybody, every human person is constituted, intellect and will. Intellect seeks for truth, the heart seeks for love. But truth and love are very much related. Nobody wants fake love. Is your love true or not? We ask. Of course. Love must be true. If not, it's not loved. And so the truth about life is loved. So Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. That means in looking at the life of Jesus, following his teachings, walking his way, we enter the fullness of life. And the fullness of life is shown to us by Jesus, who died on the cross, who gave his life. And most of all, make us share in the life of God in the Holy Spirit. Now, Jesus, therefore, in that sense, provides us the fullness of life. Now, following universal principles, is it good enough to lead a more meaningful life? Life is more than principles. Life is more than principles. It is our relationship with God. So although among other religions, we share a lot of principles, that is true. Yet, at the same time, ultimately, it requires faith, your own relationship with God, in order to find meaning and purpose in life. And this is our stand, but from the perspective of the Christian, because we don't want to denigrate other religions, from the perspective of the Christian, because Jesus is the fullness of the revelation of God. By his passion, by his death and resurrection, Jesus speaks the word of God. The fullness of truth for us Christian lies in Jesus. Other religions, they also have truth. How much do they have? I would not want to make comment. Other religions do have truth. But do they have the fullness of truth? That is for you to decide. It's not for me to tell you you do not have the fullness of truth. But I can say I have the fullness of truth. So, and that is where we are coming from. As Christian, we can say we have the fullness of truth. Your religion, you have to decide for yourself. But I cannot say we have the fullness, you don't have the fullness. But we want to say that. And so, we need Jesus, we need God. Also, basically, you know, when we talk about fullness of life, our fullness of life is not just only on earth. Our fullness of life also is life in heaven. And so, in the Christian perspective, we are not just to live a meaningful life on earth, which is only a foretaste of the life that is to come. Our meaning in life is to share in the life of God. That for us Christians, we are considered sons and daughters of God, and immediate after death, we are called to share in that fullness of life. So, for us Christians, again, principles of love, justice, that is agreed. But not all religions believe in life after death. Not all religions believe in resurrection. Not all religions believe in hell or in heaven. Now, these things belongs to the arena of faith. Without faith in Jesus, I cannot expect you to accept. So it's okay. Only those who have faith will appreciate that. Otherwise, you will not. And so for us, we don't live only for this life. In fact, for us Christians, I mean, honestly, this life for me is only a pilgrimage. I don't live here forever. Unlike those people who have no faith, you ask yourself, can you ask yourself, what is the ultimate question? You ask yourself, what is life all about? What are you doing here? What is your purpose in life? What are you living for? If you say your purpose is just to live in this life that with peace and love, after you die, what happened? If you are diminished into nothingness, then sometimes you wonder, is it therefore worth living at all? But for us, this life is only but a foretaste of the life that is to come. And so, our life is only 60, 70, 80 years, and that's it. And we believe that the fullness of life is when we share in the life of Christ and we share the resurrection that is to come. So we don't live here, we don't live only for this world, we live for the next world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Grace. I think this is a really inspirational session. I think all of us would take away with your view of Christian leadership, and I think we will then be able to perform better in our work. Shirley, you would like to? Yeah.
Thank you, Your Grace, for taking the time to share with us today. We would like to thank you with a token of our appreciation. We have prepared a specially commissioned calligraphic sculpture. We'd like to ask Mr. Ng to present it to you. The sculpture actually reads the Chinese calligraphy of 领袖 or leaders.